Sick. Yeah, I'm kind of excited for this. All right. I know I said I wanted to do a rolling intro, but it seems like we did so much prep that wouldn't really work. So let's hop into it. Hello, and welcome to Please Talk to Me, a podcast by me, Rohan. Previously, we've done 3 episodes, and this is the first time we're giving it a go at filming it. And it's also kind of a special edition because we are at Casa de la Wakefield, which is on Torch Lake, kind of towards the north of Michigan, not quite up north. Kind of fun little trip we've had with David, Andrew, Abhi, and myself. And we're going to do a little bit of explaining as far as that goes. But first, let's talk about the people that are sitting here with us, these lovely humans. David, you guys have met before, hopefully. If not, go listen to episode 2. He's a friend of mine and a big part of why this trip happened. Andrew sitting over here is, he was introduced to me through David, is David's roommate, and he's also a pretty sick filmmaker, fellow podcast host. Probably kind of the reason that I finally got off my ass and started this podcast. And yeah, Abhi over here is my cousin who lives in Mumbai. It's his first time in the United States of America. And he is with us on this trip as kind of his last little hurrah before he leaves the country. He's headed back tomorrow on his flight to India, actually. And so, basic explanation of this trip is it's... actually, I'll let you do this one, Dave. Why don't you tell us about this trip and why it came to be?
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually thinking about this earlier. I can't remember when the idea of like doing a road trip or going on some sort of trip like first came to fruition. But when you recommended Walden on Wheels, and we talked about this in the other podcast, but it's basically a book about traveling in a van. Me and you both had, I think, like a desire to go do something, go to some sort of trip. Like we thought about going to Colombia for a little while, but it ended up being like a road trip worked out better, and we were able to include more people, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So I think just throughout the last week of school, we just wanted to go and do something fun, and we thought this was the best way to kind of experience a little adventure.
Right. And yeah, so the idea initially was we wanted to go on some sort of little adventure because we both knew we had a little bit of free time, but because of jobs and internship applications and schedules, this kind of format where we took 4 days kind of worked out best. And I think it served the same purpose that we wanted of something simple, but still a fun adventure. And it was more about the people that we were with rather than the things we were doing. Not to say that the things we did weren't fun, because they were awesome.
And we didn't really plan anything, which is kind of the cool part. Like we kind of just did it.
Yeah, we had some ideas of what we wanted to do, but we pretty much got here and set up kind of a home base and then went along. So basically this trip started on Friday, Friday night pretty much. Abhi and I got together and headed to Clarkston to pick up Dave and Andrew. They both live close to each other. And we headed towards Torch Lake to the cabin. We got here the first night, hung out, had a couple beers. It was good, and we were all kind of tired, so called it a night pretty early. And the next morning, we set off to pretty much figure out what we wanted to do. And so that day, we pretty much headed. We had a couple stops in Charlevoix, Petoskey, and then finally just shy of Tequamanet Falls, which is in the UP. We camped near Paradise, Michigan. Then the next day we hit up the falls. We had a pretty sweet breakfast before that. We'll talk about that. Lovely breakfast. And we hit up the falls, and then we kind of just made our way back. We had a nice dinner and back at the cabin. Then the next day we headed to Sleeping Bear side of the state, spent the day there, hit up Traverse City, made it back last night. So it was not a whole bunch of things we did over the course of these days, but it was kind of the perfect amount. So going back to, it was our initial idea to have this trip, there were a couple things that we wanted, and these were based off of previous conversations that we had on the podcast, ways that we wanted to have this trip and make it interesting, basically. So the first one was we wanted to get away from social media, get away from our phones. And so the rule was either you don't bring your phone, like Andrew, he left his on his bed, or you kept them on airplane mode and didn't check them. That means for maps, we were using a paper map. And for music, for the most part, we were using some CDs. And so this, I guess, do you want to talk about why we chose to do that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, we just graduated. Well, for me and Andrew, we just graduated college. You just finished your junior year, but we just want to get away for a little while, you know, kind of like get a break from everything. And I didn't think Andrew was not going to bring his phone entirely. Like, I thought that was pretty confident of you, because I'll explain. I just turned off my phone. I turned it off on Friday, and I turned it on once to text my mom Happy Mother's Day. But other than that, turned it on today towards the end of the trip. But I always had it with me just in case, you know, like we were to get lost. And we can talk about like getting lost in the UP too. That was kind of funny. But it was just a nice way to like kind of escape. And it really gave us an opportunity to have like some really good conversations. I feel like we've had better conversations like in the past 4 days than I've had in the past like 6 months combined, you know?
Yeah, it's funny that you put it like that. Now that I'm thinking, it's definitely true because you can only sit in silence for so long. And there were those periods when we were driving and we'd all just be a little bit quiet in our own zones. But it kind of just forced us to talk, reminded me of my childhood a little bit. It was cool. And I guess that was really the only rule we set aside. And yeah, so we'd done that for those reasons. I brought my phone with me. It was on airplane mode for the most of it, because I'm kind of in between finding out if I got a job or if I need to come in for an interview. I had to check it, I think twice now. And I did call my mom on Mother's Day. But otherwise, we've been away from our phones for the most of this, and that's been really liberating. So let's talk about the trip, more in specific, more in detail, I guess. Andrew, why don't you tell us about the first night?
The first night, you're putting me on the spot. What did we do the first night? We got here. I guess we could talk about the drive up.
Because that was our first experience without any sort of navigation. And
yeah.
Thankfully, that was like the easiest part of the drive. But
was it, David? Tell us about those turns. No, it was. I mean, I thought everyone was leaving their phone at home. I was surprised to see that you guys had brought it with you. I just told my parents, and when I first told them, it was kind of met with some resistance. They were like, "That's such a stupid idea. Like, just bring it with you and put it on airplane mode." I'm like, "No, I'm not bringing it." And they were kind of upset with that, but I was like, whatever. So that was just kind of explaining my phone situation. Sorry, I didn't wish my mom Happy Mother's Day. I'll see her later today. But the first night, we drove up here. I thought it was really fun to use the Atlas.
Oh, 100%.
And it was surprisingly easy. Keep in mind, we weren't doing any sort of city driving, but it did put into perspective for me, if I were to do any sort of city driving without like Google or Apple Maps, how impossibly hard it would be. So that's kind of humbling to realize that, these people 15 years ago didn't have this option, or they had to print it out using MapQuest or whatever that was called. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if you guys thought at all about that.
The crazy thing for the first night for me was I've come up to Torch Lake like multiple, probably hundreds of times, and I've used a nav every single time. And I would like to say I know like the way memorized, but I was sitting there in the back of the car, like looking over your guys' shoulder, like, is this the right turn? I can't really tell, because it was dark when we drove up.
Right.
And it's amazing like how much we rely on this technology. Like, I should know this. Like, I've gone up here and up and down probably like close to 200 times like in my entire lifetime, and I still don't know it for sure, which is kind of a bad thing. And it's kind of funny how like technology plays a role, and you just kind of like drive through it. You don't actually think about it. And it was kind of nice to actually now, like, I feel like I know where every turn is, how long in between every turn and stuff like that. So that was kind of my thing with the Atlas. Yeah.
And the first moment we kind of broke out the map is when we stopped about halfway and got some Taco Bell. We were going to get 50-cent flurries from Wendy's, not Wendy.
From Wendy herself.
She was a really nice girl.
But that was closed. So, and we stopped there, and that's when we kind of busted out the map to make sure. Real quick before we continue on with that story of the night, one thing I wanted to touch on was coming into this trip. Obviously, Dave and I were pretty good friends. I'd met Andrew quite a few times before this, but Abhi was really the newcomer to the group, right? Like, me and Abhi knew each other. We're cousins, obviously. To a certain extent, we knew each other.
Who are you?
But these two didn't know Abhi. Abhi didn't know these two. And there wasn't that dynamic established yet. So if you want to pass the mic over to Abhi, what was it like coming into the situation?
So firstly, I did not know that these guys would be really crazy, especially Andrew. So it was really fun, and I'm glad I came.
Yeah. And those first, I guess, like that first 30 minutes, was it like awkward, or how was it establishing that?
So I think the first 30 minutes, it was like they were thinking if they should open up or not, maybe. And I was thinking if I should open up or not, and we slowly did. So it was great.
I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it worked out slowly, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, so continuing on with that night, I guess that night there wasn't much, but like the next morning, I guess it's when it kind of got pretty interesting, right? That's when we introduced the concept of cold freaking water. So I don't know if one of you guys wants to talk about that, but basically we got up pretty bright and early. Some of us slept in. Insert shots of these guys sleeping because I thought it would be funny to film them.
Oh God.
I went out and I meditated on the end of Dave's dock for the first time in a while. Not on the dock first time. Meditated for the first time in a while. And that was pretty cool. Felt good. And I was pretty tempted at that moment just to go into the water because it looks so nice. But I knew it was cold and I knew it would be better to do it with all of you guys. So we waited some time. We hung out, had a slow morning. I did some reading. But then we all kind of finally made our way out there and ready to jump in. And that was pretty cool. That first time we jumped in the water, it kind of started this trend of just like everywhere we went, getting really cold in the water.
And I think we should put a note, like this water is probably like 40 degrees. Like Torch Lake does not heat up until
midsummer. So it may look lovely outside, but that water was damn cold. And I think probably of all of us, it probably affected Abhi the most again. So what was that first experience like jumping in the water?
So where I come from, it's around 80 degrees. So this is probably very cold. So I just thought I had to jump, right? So I was like, I'll just close my eyes and jump. Because if I feel the water before jumping, I would probably have stayed on the dock. So I was like, let's do it.
And once you're in the water, I mean, most of you guys hopped out. Dave and Abhi especially,
Yeah.
you hopped out pretty quick. How did you feel after?
So it took me like 2 minutes to have the sensation of my leg. And then I was like shivering for 10 minutes. So I had to hop into the hot shower.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was pretty great. Me personally, I've had experiences with cold water before. Dave and I talked a little bit about this, cold showers and whatnot, but none of that can prepare you for the shock of every time jumping into cold water. It still hurts. Certain parts of male bodies hurt.
Very true.
But every time I get out of the water, I always end up feeling amazing, awake, energized, and it's something I want to keep doing, and it's something we did keep doing.
I feel like that's when we like broke the boundary. Like you said, like we were all kind of like reserved. It was when we all jumped in the water. That's like when we're like, okay, we're here. Like,
Yeah. That really like kicked the trip off.
Exactly.
And after that, we'd spent some time packing up, cleaning up, but then we were on our way to our first stop in Charlevoix. And both you and Andrew have some experience, and this is where I was kind of letting you guys guide us. I was driving, but you guys knew the spots to hit on the way, and we kind of made a rough plan. We wanted to get ready to hit Tequamanon the next morning. So we walked around Charlevoix for a bit, and that was cool. There was a lighthouse, and I think what I enjoyed about this the most is it was just a calm, it was not like a touristy traveling thing where there's places you have to hit and you spend this amount of time, you've seen it, move on, right? We're just kind of taking our time. We grabbed some coffee, we sat down and talked there for a little bit. We walked around, took pictures, and we saw some cool things, but there was no rush and there was nothing specific we were trying to see. And I think that's kind of the best way to not only enjoy spending time with each other, but also take in a new place.
And we were never in a rush, which was kind of a cool thing because none of us had any means of knowing what time it was.
That's true.
Because
Yeah.
none of us had our headphones. None of us wear watches. The only time we were able to see like what time it was when we were in the car.
Right. Because the car had a clock, and thankfully it was the right time.
Exactly.
That's one thing we noticed is we automatically assumed that time was passing faster than it was, which was interesting when you didn't have. Sometimes, like, I think back to when I was a kid and you're playing and you're like, time flies by so fast when you're having fun. It was almost the opposite. I would find us like stopping in each town, and then I'd turn on the car and be like, that's not that bad. We have plenty of time to make it to the next place and do all sorts of things. So
Yeah, and the whole time thing was really interesting to me because I'm someone who's like pretty obsessed with time and like try not to waste time. Like last summer, this is kind of like psychotic, but I would plan out what I was doing for like every 10-minute section of a day for a while, which is like probably kind of weird. And so just to realize that like it doesn't really matter how long we stay in Charlevoix or Petoskey, we'll probably make it up to Tequamanon Falls at the right time. We might not be able to get some food and beer or firewood from the local store. But yeah, that was really interesting to me, just not really caring about time at all.
right, yeah. And then our next stop was Petoskey, right? And there we pretty much we did the same thing. We walked around for a bit. It was funny. We'd just gotten coffee in Charlevoix, and we pretty much were already wanting more coffee. I think some of us probably have a problem, but we got dinner, and it was pretty yummy, pretty great. And we hopped on the road again. This time, we're making our way across the Mackinac Bridge. Abhi's first time seeing the bridge. You were sleeping, and then I woke you up just before the bridge. What did you think of the bridge? Here, hold it a little bit closer.
Yeah. So the weather was great and it was bright, even it was like late evening. So that was something new for me because where I stay, it's dark by 7 p.m. But it was quite bright and I had a nice nap. So the bridge seemed really nice.
Yeah.
And I was just relaxing. I did not have to drive. So
Yeah. And so when we got to Paradise, or just shy of Paradise, the plan was to camp for the night and then be ready the next morning to hit the falls kind of bright and early. We'll see about that. But we got there and we realized that the campsite was one of those like self-register sites. No one was working at the time. So we made our way over to the town and decided we wanted to grab some firewood, get ready for the night. And everything was closed in this town. Maybe a motel was open. We had gotten there just after like the only convenience store had closed, and we could see the dude in there, and we were hoping to pay him for the firewood. Dude was not very happy about that. We'd just be like, "Hey, fire, pay you," and they'd be like,
I mean, we were literally knocking on the window and he was just straight up ignoring us.
he didn't even look, and he'd just be closed. That was interesting because I don't know. I tend to assume that most people up here are pretty nice and pretty accommodating, but hey, is what it is. We went down the street and found some firewood that had a Dropbox where you put cash in, and that worked out pretty well. Headed back to the camp, had a nice little fire, shot some cool long exposure photos for Dave's first time messing around with that. How did you like that?
That was really cool. It was nice to like, since we had like no barriers on time and we're kind of just like doing whatever. It was really nice to actually like get that opportunity to learn like how to do long exposures and stuff like that. Cause camera and like taking like photography, not camera, has always been a hobby of mine. And I'm glad I have friends like you and Andrew who are like really talented at this type of stuff. And it's kind of cool. Like these road trips and all these trips like this are cool for me because I get the benefit of you guys because you guys take photos of me and it like helps out my Instagram. But
And we get to stay in a sweet cabin.
True. Yeah, that's the repayment.
Yeah, we captured Dave's experience, make him look really good, boost his Tinder profile.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
And we get the cabin. Yeah, no. And then that night turned out to be pretty freaking cold.
That's what I was going to ask you. Why don't you talk about your night's sleep, and then I would love to talk about mine after.
All right, sure. So I was the last one to get to sleep. So I was the last one to get to sleep, and I was fully expecting. I have quite a bit of experience camping. Grew up camping, and I was fully expecting to be toasty. Like I knew this sleeping bag. I was wearing my winter coat. I was like, I'm gonna get in that sleeping bag. I'm gonna knock out because I've had a long day. I'm feeling good. I get in the sleeping bag. Nope. So I forgot to pack a sleeping pad for both me and Abhi. And being Abhi's first time camping, I decided to let him have the pad. And I was there in the sleeping bag, wearing a hoodie, wearing a zipped up like down jacket, sweatpants, socks, curled up in the fetal position, and I was still breathing into like my chest region just to like heat up my core. And I'm sure I fell asleep quite a few times, and then I woke up quite a few times, and I had a couple knots in my back. I mean, it wasn't terrible in the morning. What about your experience?
Well, Dave snored in my ear, and so it was a 4-person tent, and we're grown men, at least in size. So we were kind of in there, not tightly, but we were close. And Dave decided that he wanted to sleep on his side facing me, and then proceeded to snore.
I like to look at you, bro.
Anyways, I didn't sleep that much that night, and I was really pissed off about it. And I was really cold, and it was miserable. And I want to bring it full circle because it was miserable in the moment. And I think we all had our own individual miserable moments on this trip, whether that was the sand dunes and the flies, which we'll get to, or jumping in the cold water. But it's not the miserable part that was bad. It was after that breakfast. That was the best breakfast I've ever had, like probably bar none, because I was so excited for it. I was so hungry the entire morning. The car was locked and I was freezing, but then we got to the breakfast, had coffee and good food. It's like, that's what it's all about, is like the contrast. It's like kind of going back to the cold water thing. Getting into the cold water is only fun because when you get out, you feel like so good. Mm-hmm. And that's what I had been thinking a lot about, is like the contrast of these miserable moments and then these really peaceful moments. And that's what the trip has been a lot about for me.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. You have something to say?
Yeah, I slept fine. So I had a nice sleeping bag, and I feel bad because I passed out. And then obviously I didn't know.
I heard.
Yeah, I didn't know I snore, but I guess I snore pretty loud. And we were packed pretty tightly in that tent. So yeah, I apologize for that.
Yeah, I heard Abhi slept pretty well, except he had the same issue with Dave snoring. I didn't hear Dave snoring at all, yet I wasn't sleeping. I don't know. Maybe I was sleeping and I just felt miserable. Who knows? But yeah, so we all had our interesting experience that night. Breakfast the next morning was amazing. In that same town, Paradise, pretty much the only diner that was open. As simple as you can imagine. Just, eggs, bacon, just like your classic American breakfast. These two had a large one, the lumberjack.
Yeah. Lumberjack, watered down coffee. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. That coffee was smooth, but because it was watered down.
Yeah. It's like the UP special. I feel like you got to go to this small cafe and like get a nice breakfast and stuff like that. It was really cool.
It was nice. After that is when Dave and I called our moms and wished them happy Mother's Day. Andrew was
making me feel bad,
unable to. And then we got on our way towards the falls, and I was pretty excited because I'd heard plenty about Tahquamenon Falls growing up in Michigan. My dad had just gone there the previous year, and I wasn't able to make it, and I was pretty excited to see. And then I was also really looking forward to swimming in the lower falls. So we got there and we had a good time. We did a little bit of walking. Oh, we were also supposed to do a hike, and I know Andrew was pretty disappointed that the trail was closed.
I was.
Looking at it, we probably could have just done the hike anyway, but I think some of us probably were just a little bit thankful that the trail was closed. We were pretty tired.
After not a lot of sleep and like hanging out in the cold for that long, I was like, I'm
not
okay.
A lot of sleep. I heard you sleep for 8 hours.
I don't know about that. I don't know about 8 hours.
I counted every second.
Okay.
Andrew's just looking at his watch.
Yeah.
No. I thought Andrew was going to slap me in the morning.
I thought I was going to punch you in the night or just put the pillow over you.
You talk about put yourself in misery for a little while.
Yeah.
You should be thanking me.
Can I break because we're kind of going in chronological order. Okay. So, and I'll let whoever wants to answer it first because I want to hear everyone's answer. What was the most miserable part of the trip for everyone.
We'll let Abhi go first.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I enjoyed every bit of it. So miserable maybe. See, I was not cold in the tent. Maybe the noise. That was, but still I could bear it. I slept late and I woke up late, so I managed my sleep. And maybe, I mean, I don't know. I enjoyed every bit of it. So
Okay.
Sure.
Dave?
Should I go next?
Maybe I just like to complain.
The worst part of the trip. So, like, I agree with you. I think this has been great. I haven't really had any bad moments. The part where I was probably the most stressed out was when we made a wrong turn in the UP. I'm one of those type of people who are like, I like to know where I'm going. I don't like to be lost. Like, I kind of get paranoid about that type of stuff. Oh, and like, the low gas miles. That's I told you guys, like, I think about how much gas we have left. Like, that's a big fear of mine, is running out of gas, especially in the UP with no phones. So when we made that wrong turn in the UP and like we weren't really sure like what road we were on or like where we were at, that was definitely like peak stress for me. But then we obviously figured it out and made it. But that was probably my worst part.
And that really only, that whole thing took us maybe 20 minutes to figure out. That wasn't that bad.
No, not at all. What about you? What was your worst part?
I would agree and say that overall, I had a great time. And I have this tendency in any situation where if I'm not, there's been bad moments, things where I'm unhappy, a week, a month, a year, it just like all those bad moments just kind of like fade away for me. And I only remember really the best parts. But if I were to really think about it, there were a couple moments when I was probably, I think from Petoskey to Commandant and stuff like that, I was pretty damn tired driving. And I drive quite a bit, so it wasn't a big deal. It was just like we'd had a really full dinner and then I'm just like, and yeah, so that was a little rough. And then there was probably a short moment climbing up that bluff. That was testing, but that was primarily to do with the bugs. The climb was difficult, but it wasn't, it was good pain, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Talking about driving, can I change my moment? I would like to say the worst moment was when I tried to learn how to drive stick shift, and these two were making fun of me in the back of the car, and I thought I was going to break your car. It would be stranded up here. So yeah, I would like to change my moment to that.
To give Dave credit, he was doing a lot better than most people do, but these two in the back were definitely heckling him.
So that was one of the most funniest part of the trip. This guy was controlling his laughter so much, and he's like making faces and doing this all the time.
Yeah, I'm sitting here super stressed out trying to figure out how to do the clutch and the gas and like trying to focus on two things at once. And I can hear these two giggling in the back seat as our car's jerking forward and backwards. Oh, that was more stressful than getting lost for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to be honest too, like it trying to teach someone how to drive too, like obviously I thought it was funny, but then like for a quick second there, I was like pretty frustrated too. I was like, just shut up and let him drive. Like,
Yeah, I sometimes have issues with shutting up, but no, the miserable, it's more hyperbole. It's not actually miserable. It's just like, dang, when you think of a trip, you do only think of the good parts, but it's like reality check. Sometimes you do get covered in bugs when you're climbing up the really pretty like sand dune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And well, the thing with ours is, and maybe that's why we kind of got over it so quickly, is in our miserable moments, we didn't have anywhere to run away to. Like you couldn't go hide away in your phone and scroll for a couple minutes or whatever to distract yourself from that. Either you sat and pretty much kind of sat in your misery, or you just moved on and kept having fun, which was pretty much what we ended up doing. So that was pretty cool.
And I can't believe that none of us said the worst part of the trip wasn't climbing up the Sleeping Bear Dune, whatever you call that, the big dune at Sleeping Bear Dunes, because I think that was by far the hardest thing we've done. And like those bugs were insane. But it's kind of funny how like the hardest thing we've done, like we all kind of have like a positive outlook on it now.
Yeah.
It was kind of difficult, but then
Oh, wait. Say that again.
It was kind of difficult, but then it had its own. We experienced something different. So,
What were you thinking when you were going up the hill?
I was like, Rohan, let's just call for rescue. And he's like, no. We just, see, we've done the 1/3 part. So it's just a little bit of left. So we can do it. And I see downstairs, I've just climbed 20 steps. And I'm like, okay, we can do it. And like seeing you guys climbing so fast, that made me motivate a bit. So
What was going through your head when you were sitting on the sand dune, just like looking out at the dune, like halfway up the hill?
I pretty much felt like Bear Grylls from The Man vs. Wild. I was like, I have nothing. I just have a bottle of water and like 200 ml of water. And I was like, I have to manage in this water, climbing up 400 feet. It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah. And so we jumped ahead of ourselves a little bit there, but not a big deal. Let's go back to, so we showed up to Tequamanon. We did a lot of photo shooting there. We all had, that was kind of like a relaxed moment. Nothing super crazy about that. We made our way down to the lower falls and we realized quickly that the current was way stronger. I mean, Andrew was a bit optimistic, but I pretty much looked at that water and immediately knew that there's no way we're crossing that river. Those waves were pretty large, but we still, regardless, made our way in. We were determined.
You and I.
We being Andrew and I, because Dave was pretty dead set on not coming in, and we don't blame Abhi at all, by the way. Dave was pretty not dead set on not coming in.
I don't regret my decision of not going in.
We'll change that. We'll make sure you regret it at some point.
He's lying.
I'm not, I swear. I did not want to be cold in that car ride home.
Dude, once you get out of the cold water, you're warm. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking like that. That was not my logic. Let's just talk about your experience, because I mean, it is a really cool thing that you guys did.
You can talk first and then I'll follow you.
Yeah, so I guess this is next in the saga of us being cold and enjoying it. So we'd done Torch Lake a couple times, and I was really looking forward to getting in those falls. Andrew had talked briefly about being able to swim under the falls, which I was slightly disappointed at first that we weren't able to do that, but it really didn't matter once we got in. I was still having fun. The falls were beautiful. And it was just another fun moment to remember and experience. And it was cold. Like, we were on the edge, and if we lay down in the water, it would try to pull you into the middle. Like, we'd move a couple inches and freak out for a second, but it was good. I felt alive, and it's something I'll remember.
Yeah, no, same here. Obviously, water was not warm for me. And yeah, I don't know. It's funny because like, I did not want to go in that water at all. I did not want to go, but you were going. So I'm like, I'm going to go. And Dave couldn't do it, but we still love him.
I didn't want to do it.
We still love him, and it's okay.
I'd have to say throughout this trip, I definitely played the role of motivating everyone to get into the water. I'm not sure why, but that is what ended up happening this time, I guess. And a couple times, definitely convinced Dave to come in with me. But yeah, so we hit those falls, and after that, we pretty much just made our way. We didn't stop after that, right? We got gas, but other than that, we just kind of enjoyed the drive back to the cabin back here in Torch Lake. It was a couple hours. Nice sunset crossing the bridge. It was a good time, nice and relaxed.
It was kind of cool because once we spent like a long day at Tequamanon, and like we did a lot. And then like, even with like camping in the morning, like I just felt like we were active all day long. And then we came back to Torch and kind of had like a nice little bonfire and like kind of reflected on it. And that was a really cool experience. And I felt like we had like really great conversation like after that, because like we all experienced all these cool things, and like sitting around the fire just talking about it was a really cool time.
Even we had a really interesting conversation about the childhood sitting by the falls, if you remember, when Andrew went for a walk and it was just 3 of us.
Oh, right. You're right.
Wait.
When we were sitting on a platform by the upper falls.
Where Rohan was trying to meditate.
Oh, yeah. That was a really cool time. Like, that's like when we all bonded. Was like
when I wasn't there.
Yeah, when you weren't there.
I guess we were just talking about how I was in my head about, and I have been for the past couple months, honestly, reminiscing what it would be like to go back to being a child. Mm-hmm. And we were just sitting there and talking about our childhoods. And Abhi was talking about how he would go out and play soccer with all his friends. And it was just a nice little bonding moment.
Because it's cool because like we obviously have very different upbringings, but we both would go outside and play soccer with our friends like in our childhood. And I don't know, it's just kind of cool. We're all very different, and we had like really cool conversations about that.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing I wanted to talk about next was when we got back to the cabin, because we'd spent a night at the cabin before, but this was like the first like actual, we spent the evening, we went to the grocery store, we got some wieners on the fire. That was fun. I dropped my first one into the fire. That was sad, but that was a really, really beautiful sunset. It was really, we were all kind of quiet, but then also enjoying the time together, drank a couple beers, chilled out. David, one thing that I noticed kind of when we got back is, and I honestly wasn't sure because, I mean, I know you, but I don't know you that well. And Andrew probably, I don't know what you were thinking. You can chime in on this too. But I noticed that Dave was a little bit quieter that whole time. He was setting up the fire. He was kind of just off by himself. And I couldn't tell if he was upset or what. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
No, yeah, for sure. And I definitely wasn't upset, but I'm definitely one of those people who likes like my time. I told you this when we were setting up the fire. Like one of the things I do when I'm up here is I always set up the fire, and I like doing that by myself, you know, like periodically. And like just with the whole sunset and like with such a long day, I was just kind of like in a really chill mood. And like I was super happy, but I was just very like content, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What are you going to say?
I don't know. It seemed like you were a little moody.
I was happy. I was just like tired. I don't know.
That's Dave. You can tell when Dave is moody. He gets recluse. It happens in the back of the car when he pretends like he's asleep and doesn't talk back to me. But
no, yeah, I definitely was ignoring you a little bit when I was trying to fall asleep.
it's okay. I can deal with it. I was trying to ignore you when you were snoring in my ear, but
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But no, that was really nice. It was a really beautiful sunset. We took some pictures. We hung out, ate far too many marshmallows. But otherwise it was, yeah. Andrew was joking about, was it you who ate them or someone?
It was my neighbor who had 32 marshmallows, not me. I had 32 marshmallows the other night.
Yeah. So we were just talking about how his neighbor as a child ate 32 marshmallows and how horrible that would be. And then we pretty much all did that anyway.
We had 2 bags full of marshmallows, and the next morning there was 0 left.
There was 2?
No, there was 0. Yeah, there's 2 bags.
I am extremely upset.
No, that was good. And we woke up the next morning, kind of took it easy again. We'd done some light planning that we wanted to head to Sleeping Bear the next day. Definitely did not get out of the house when we were expecting to, but that was fine because first off, we had no idea what time it was and didn't really matter anyway because we only had one goal for the day, really. So we got on our way after, I think we did another. Oh, let me touch on this. That previous night after the bonfire, I went and swam in the lake in the dark.
Alone
because no one, I failed in convincing anyone to join me that time. And it was certainly quite cold. And it was fun though.
What was it like to just jump in alone? Because I mean, like we always like jump in together as like a group, and that like motivates you. But like doing it alone in the dark in like the middle of the night.
Honestly, like you guys were up the hill at the fire.
Yes,
but I was kind of scared. Obviously, I mean, I'm still gonna do it. Obviously, it was my idea. Voluntarily chose to do this, but it was kind of scary because, and that was a cloudier night too, so it was pretty dark. And you go out there, obviously, you know this water is about to be freezing cold, but it's also just this kind of expanse of nothing. And if I had not jumped in that water the previous day, I don't think I wouldn't have been nearly as easy because it was the fact that I jumped in and I knew that it was only like 4 feet deep. I could touch the bottom once I went in. That was like, okay. But if it was dark, I couldn't see anything and I couldn't touch the bottom, I don't know about that. That definitely would have, and it was freezing cold, almost like paralyzingly cold. But it was cool because once I went in, I was comfortable. I swam around a bit. I was like, this is fun. This is painful. This is fun. Climbed out, made my way back, and yeah, that was the rest of the night. Back on track, we're headed to Sleeping Bear Sand Dunes with only real plan knowing that Andrew pretty much explained that he cannot go to Sleeping Bear without climbing up the bluff. So we all decided to join him because I'd been there a couple times and every time had been convinced by my parents not to climb up the buff, probably for good reason. Being the child I was, I probably wouldn't have had a great time climbing back up. But Dave had actually, I mean, you live at, you've come to Torch Lake for a long time. You've been around Michigan your whole life. And you never been to,
never been to Sleeping Bear. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to go, because everyone's talked about Sleeping Bear so many times and it's so cool. But I was actually wondering, because like that was a beautiful drive to Sleeping Bear. Like I really enjoyed, because it was blue skies, you know, like we had like Queen playing in the car. Did you guys feel like a different vibe in the car? Like, because like it was very different from like our very first car ride. Like, do you guys, like, what did that feel like to you?
So like every day the view was different and it was very beautiful, right? So I had a lot of fun napping next to Rohan and talking with you guys. And I think this was so far one of the best road trips I've ever had. And going to Sleeping Bear sand dunes. So as soon as we were about to reach the sand dunes and we were near the lake, so the view was amazing. I mean, I still have that view in front of my eyes, and I don't think if I'll forget it ever. So,
nice.
Yeah. So just talking about like the vibe. So Queen wasn't playing when we were going because he was DJing. And that was one thing that was really cool for me, is because like Dave said, we all have our differences. I mean, we're from like different sides of the earth, but then your favorite artist is Drake. And it's like, we have all these differences, but also we're like, damn, we love Drake. So that was really cool for me.
Yeah, we're all bumping to like all the music that we all love together, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that drive was fun for me to drive. I was having a good time. It was scenic, kind of through some farmland, but it was like not your typical, it was like rolling hills kind of, and I had a good time. When we got there, we went on the scenic drive, which was even cooler. That was like, I definitely been there. Awesome perk was that the fee collection station was closed. That's the second time we've gotten lucky this trip where we didn't have to pay $25 to go. So hey, that was pretty sweet. But no, we drove around, we took pictures. We did like a little like short dune trail sort of deal. Went out and took some pictures there. Mr. Wake did some modeling for me. We're gonna start his career off. Part of what we were talking about earlier. Just doing some work, you know.
Yeah, planning on moving to LA pretty soon here, you know, skipping the whole law school thing.
No, but then the big moment was coming up. We were all going to run down this hill, swim around, and run back up. And the cool part about this, I think the coolest part about this was that this place was pretty much empty. There were some tourists at the top who were, I'm sure, all enjoying watching us in our pain. But otherwise, there was no one on that hill until we were on our way back up. Someone was coming down. And there was definitely no one who had swam in that water for a while. But I'm going to let Andrew tell this story because he was kind of in charge of this section of the adventure.
Yeah. So like I said, I've done this dune climb quite a few times. I think that was my 4th or 5th time. And my one goal was just making sure that no one was like freaked out and like wouldn't do it. So I know I was worried that Dave might try and chicken out, to be honest with you. But you didn't. No one did. And we all went down, and the rundown is so fun. Just, I mean, you're at many times you're running and you're like, I am very close to just falling. I have my backpack on my back, camera in my hand. But it's just like, it's literally impossible to run down that hill without a smile on your face, because it's like, look at this amazing view. You feel like you're flying. You were saying you felt like you were on the moon.
Yeah. Every step I take, I was like, it was just like gravity was just different.
Yeah.
Because you're running, but you're like floating down. Super cool.
And then you get down there and you look up and you're like, I can't believe I just did this whole distance so quickly. And then you get in the cold water and then you go back up and it's horrible. But what were you guys thinking when you got to the bottom of the dune?
Anybody? You can start, Dave.
I can start. I just remember looking up, because like I've obviously never been there before, and being like, holy crap. Like you couldn't see the top of the dune like from where you're standing. And it's like a straight up pitch. So I was super pumped to get to the bottom. I was trying to get in that water as soon as possible just to get away from those flies and like like just a note that like obviously there was millions of flies there. We didn't really talk about that, but you're running down this hill, like you're like in a car, like hitting all these flies. But just like when we got down there, it was just kind of like a surreal experience. Like you can see Lake Michigan and it's so beautiful, and like you have like this beautiful horizon, and you're kind of like isolated down there because all the people who were there, like the view that weren't doing the hill, were probably I don't know how high it is, but like hundreds of feet up this bitch, and it's kind of cool because it's like it was just us down there, which is a cool experience.
Right, and there were lots of flies. So the thing is, on the sand, there were lots of flies. The flies wouldn't go near the water, but the water was freezing. Like we'd done the Torch Lake, we'd done Tequamanen. This water had to be damn near 10 degrees cooler almost. And I felt like I was in glacial water, but I mean, I preferred that to the flies, honestly. So we ran in, ran back out, ran in, ran back out. And initially, the same thing. The first thing is when I was at the top of that hill before I started running, I was like, I cannot see the bottom of this. When I was at the bottom, I can't see the top. And I know myself. So when I got to the bottom, I was like, this is about to be painful. But this is going to be a mental challenge. But no, it was good. We had fun in that water. We screwed around a bit, threw some rocks, pretended like we were in Baywatch for a hot sec there. And then we like laid down in the water and that was painful. But again, I have nothing but the best memories of that.
What were you thinking when you went in the water and then you just plopped down on the sand? Because I remember seeing you just plop down, kind of like and get all muddy and stuff. It was hilarious.
Okay, yeah. So the first time in the water, and I'm the one who, I was the one pushing for the water this whole trip. When I got in that water, that was next level. I went like head under, and I, for a quick sec, saw like a flash of like paralysis. Like I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, cause I swam out. I instead of just flopping down, I just went out as far as I could really quick. And I was like, bad decision. And I'm running back. Everything on me is like burning cause it's so cold. And I'm like, that sand has been cooking in the sun. It has to be warm. I don't care how dirty I get. I just flopped down and just like barely could breathe on the sand. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm sandy. I guess I'll have to go back in. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I did that, but it was easier the second time for sure. Abhi?
So when we started to go down, so it was like the slope was bad. So, I mean, we couldn't walk, we had to run. And slowly we started experiencing the flies. And I was like, okay, that's okay. We started going down and the flies are like increasing in numbers and there were like 1 million of them. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me reach at the bottom. And it was really, I mean, it took us around 5 minutes to get down and 45 minutes to climb up, at least to me. And there were like so many flies, but then going inside water, that was, I think, more horrible. So I was like, I'll deal with the flies. But see, while climbing back up, I think flies were the main motivation for me to like, I have to go because I cannot sit between like 1,000 flies around me. And also while climbing it was difficult, but then after I reached to the top, I literally, after 10 minutes, I had no pain in my legs. So I was just hungry and then we grabbed
very hungry.
We were hungry and we grabbed like a huge meal.
Yeah. You had a big meal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so that was great. The climb up for me was definitely like the first bit of it was really hard because it was just getting out of that water and I had energy from that, but it was also just like when you're at the starting, it's different, right? Andrew, I don't know, you can talk about this. You've done this plenty of times, obviously, but you were just going full force off the start there. And I knew that I was like, I'm going to pace myself. This is going to be a long one for me, but
yeah, I think it's a lot. I mean, with anything, once you've done it, sorry, I just blew someone's eardrum.
Yeah, it's fine.
Once you've done it and you know you can do it, it's a lot easier. So I just knew that going in, but thinking back to the first time I did it, we almost threw, because we had me, Josh and Brad had a race up the hill and like we legitimately almost threw up at the end because like it was a full out race. So I just kept like putting one foot in front of the other and just knew that that was the pace that I could pretty much keep, but I was complaining the entire time. So
it was nice having Andrew on that climb up because I know I know we talked about this, but like having Andrew be like ahead of me, being like, okay, I can make it. Like there's someone else climbing up this hill. Like just being able to see him and see like him like get higher and higher. I'm like, okay, I can keep doing this. But like I was the opposite of the whole pace myself thing. Because I remember I was climbing up, like crawling up. And I looked down at my hands and my arms completely covered with flies. And I was just like, I need to get out of here as fast as possible. So there was no pacing myself, but it was really nice to see because like we all kind of like had like a different pace, and it was like nice to see people ahead, nice to see people behind, to see like, oh, I actually made some like work. Like I haven't been sitting here going nowhere, which would have been horrible. But yeah, that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, no, and it's kind of funny because for me at the starting, I saw Andrew and I was like, all right, I need to start working out more. And then I saw Dave and we started out together, and Dave got, I don't know, 100 feet ahead of me. And I was like, all right, same thing. But then I kept looking up and I was like, each time I'd climb for a bit and I'd look straight at my feet and I'd just go. And I'd dig my feet like into the sand. And it'd be like these little spurts. And at the starting, it was pretty rough for me. But then every time I look up, it'd be like, they're still climbing. And I'm like, this is going to take me a long time. But then as soon as I started to see, I was like, all right, can't see Andrew anymore. I was like, I should keep up with Dave. I was like trying to match Dave's pace a little bit. Once he was like 100 feet ahead of me, I kind of like tried to keep that to a certain degree. And then I was like, can't see Dave anymore. Making progress. And then I'd like sit down and like wait for Abhi to catch up a little bit. And then I was like, at a certain point, I was like, all right, I'm not Andrew or Dave. Like, I don't need to be here like making sure Abhi could do it. I need to make sure I can do it. So at that point, I was just like, all right, let's go. But it definitely got a lot easier towards the top, and it was good. I want to try it again at some point. It was funny. Right when I got to the top, I was like, it'd be kind of fun to go down. But then I was like, wait, those flies. But yeah, no. And we made our way to Traverse City after that. Did some walking around, got some coffee that was pretty yummy. Cool coffee shop. I know Andrew and I had like a brief conversation about coffee shops and things that we'd like to do with them. I don't know. I was explaining that in the future, I think it would be fun to have maybe like a co-working space and on like an upper level of a building, and to also own the coffee shop below it that maybe became a bar by night. It'd be fun. But from there, the goal was to find food and possibly find the love of Andrew's life.
This is true.
Andrew, do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So referencing back to, excuse me, Josh and Brad, we went on I think it was 10 days in Michigan. We went on a road trip, went to many of the same spots, Sleeping Bear, Tequamanon, Traverse City. And when we were in Traverse City, we went to this ice cream store, and there was this lovely girl who gave me a peanut butter ice cream. And yeah, I thought it was love at first sight from both of us, but she obviously didn't feel the same way. And
you don't know that.
Yeah, she could be out there looking for me still to this day.
Yeah, so if you're listening, Andrew Hudson.
Yeah, seriously. But that was funny, and I love Traverse City. Like you were saying with the coffee shop and turning into a bar by night, that is something that I think only happens in Traverse City. And I don't know, it has a very cool energy in that city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it is. I think we really lucked out on the fact that we have all these like really cool cities along. Is it 31 is the road that we were on?
That time we were on 72.
72.
We were on 31 for a while too. Yeah.
Okay, but like, I mean, anyways, like we have Charlevoix, which is absolutely beautiful. We have Petoskey that was really cool, and then Traverse City too. So we just have like all these really cool places that we were able to hit. That's like all along like the northwest side of like Michigan, and we're really fortunate that we have all these different cool places that we're able to hit like within an hour, which was really nice. And
yeah.
I have a question for you guys, kind of going back to the beginning of the idea behind this road trip. What did you guys notice not using your phones?
I think it forced conversation. That was for sure. Cause a lot of times like in car rides, like a lot of like, I've done this car ride millions of times, and a lot of times we just listen to music, you know, and people don't really talk for the like I would probably say like 75% of the car ride, but we talked, I think, for most of it. We only listened to like the Queen track through and through, maybe like one time, which is, I don't know, like an hour or something like that. But we really like, it was really nice because none of us really knew each other before. So we were able to like talk and like get through some of those like social barriers.
Yeah. So same thing. I noticed the conversation. And then the other thing I noticed is it really made you take in every moment more where, and we were still obviously using our cameras, taking pictures and videos, but it just, for me, it made me really appreciate moments, the simpler things. I noticed more things along the way just when we were driving. And I feel like I have a better memory of those experiences now. Yeah. Abhi, you want to talk about that?
So I definitely agree with you about the moments and stuff and the forced conversations, but then they were more of like, we were more interested to talk to each other, and it was not forced, but we had fun. Like we had really good conversations and we talked about stuff, what we like, what we don't like, about our cultures, youth rights. And like if we had phones, then probably we would have been in our rooms after we come back to the cabin. But then no, we were spending time on the fire or in the living room. You guys tried some of the Indian food. Mm-hmm. I hope you liked it.
Oh, we did.
And
it was very good.
It was kind of different. I hope it was different and nice for you guys, and I loved it. So
yeah, likewise.
I felt like because I didn't have my phone, I didn't have all these like other things going on that I had to worry about. And like I had like free space in my brain. So I was like more present in every single situation. Cause I didn't like throughout this whole trip, I didn't think about anything like I remember you asked me this morning, what are you doing this week? And that was the first time like all weekend I thought about like the next couple of days.
Yeah. And that was provoked by Andrew asking me what I was doing this week.
Yeah. I guess I could talk about the phone for a little bit too, but, so yeah, just the phone usage for me, I obviously think about not using and using my phone a lot. Just in terms of like one thing I've been doing a lot recently is when I go to, let's say, a coffee shop or somewhere, I will bring my phone with me because I want to listen to music when I'm driving there and everything. But once I get there, I leave it in the car. And I don't know. My mom is always like, just bring it with you and don't use it. Or even my friends, sometimes they're like, you're so extreme with that. And there really is a difference for me. And I'm a person that is like often in my head a lot. And I think a phone just exacerbates that completely because you're not only worried about your own shit, but you're always looking at what other people are doing. Is this person going to text me back? Do I have to text this person? Do I have to do this, that, check my email? I didn't get that internship yet. Just all those different things. And when it's not here, it's like, everything's all right. Like the world is still going on. So that it was really cool to not have the phone for me personally.
Yeah. And one thing is like I did check my phone a couple times, but beforehand, made sure any social media was off my phone. So when I opened it, I wasn't even getting those notifications. And those short things, when I opened my phone, I would get a lot of texts that I wasn't expecting or emails that I wasn't expecting, but they weren't the reason why I was checking my phone. Sorry, people, but I didn't respond. And I was thinking about it for like a quick second and I immediately put it away. Because I knew what the opposite of that was and why I wanted to do that. And there were some moments where I felt the pang or I felt the desire to check my phone, to scroll something or to look up something. Googling was a thing that we couldn't do. And I thought that was funny. It's like, yeah, I think it's this way. No, I think it's this way. And usually when that happens, someone Googles it right away. And we couldn't. So we're just like, all right, we'll find out eventually. Big deal. I thought that was cool.
What are you guys thinking about? You're looking at your little journal.
I know this is like, I was looking through, cause obviously I journal and like to give a little background on it. I just try to write down like all like the funny things that we did. And it's just funny as I go through the journal, like the stuff we talked about and the stuff we did get a little bit more crazy over time.
A little crazy?
A little crazy. Yeah. Like you said, like we're a little crazy. And it's just funny how like, I don't know if you guys experienced this and I can ask you about it, but I felt like our conversations, like not only did they get better, but they got like a lot weirder, like over time.
We became pretty familiar.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, just going back to the beginning, like there has been an evolution of like, oh, we're a lot more comfortable around each other. And I remember like when we were skateboarding around waiting for you guys to come. We didn't know that you were from India. So we found out quickly when you told us, and it just was, oh, the camera just died. Rest in peace. But, we all just got way more comfortable with each other and just had such a blast. At least I'm speaking for myself here. You guys could be feeling differently.
No, I agree. And what's funny is because we're getting closer like that, I mean, it's just the truth that when you're by yourself, you are weird. Like, you have those thoughts, and it's not weird that you have those thoughts because it's just with you. And as you become more familiar with other people, and you'll notice this if you think about like your best friend at home or whatever, and someone like with my roommate, like we have those weird conversations all the time. But that's because you're just at the core of it, you're just more yourself, and there's no long. It's that sign of that barrier disappearing. It's like, that's what I noticed.
And that's definitely something I want to like involve, because like, especially now that like, well, I guess we're all doing very different things, but like now that I'm like working like a more corporate job, like everyone's so formal, and like how do we get past that in like everyday lives? Like, do you guys have any ideas like how to bring like the weirdness out? Because like those are always like the coolest people, the people who are funny and quirky and stuff like that. Do you have any like ideas on like how to make yourself better in those terms?
I think usually the best policy is like if you put yourself out there a little bit, obviously you can't go straight to 10, but if you just sort of like drop little hints or just start being more of yourself, people usually like will reciprocate that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best way to do it, because at the end of the day, everyone is a person. And I think of the people that I know the best, and whenever you get to know someone better, they always get weirder. So I think that's just kind of like, people are weird.
I think it's a process. As much as I would love for me to walk up to someone like a coworker or someone and be like, hey, I want to be friends. I'm weird. You're weird. Let's just admit that. Let's get straight to it. That's not how it works. Like that's just how it is. People are humans. And if someone did that to you, that's way too weird off the line. This person is freaking crazy, even though eventually it will get there. But I think it takes doing more things like we're doing this weekend, choosing the people you want to be weird with, and taking steps to develop those relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have one last question. Why do you like B-dubs?
So it's like in India we have KFC, we don't have B-dubs, and probably I love the sauces. So Blazin is one of them, and I'm carrying 3 bottles of that going back home and hoping for B-dubs to be in Mumbai soon.
Yeah, the bringing up the Blazin also reminded me that I tried ghost pepper sauce, which we all did things that I think were a little bit outside of our comfort zones. I mean, you going in the water, I was very impressed with that. I mean, I'm going to pat myself on the back here with the ghost pepper sauce, because my dad will be so proud of me when he hears that. But I think we all did our own individual things. So it's like, I normally wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it.
No, I'm the same way with like when I put that ghost pepper sauce on that hot dog, like what you said about noticing like when I'm moody is totally true, because I was quiet for a little while after. And you said, oh, you took it like a champ. I was just sitting there in pain. Like there's like tears like welling up in my eyes. I was like, this is not good.
You put quite a bit of that sauce on there.
I know might have been because of the beers, but yeah, that was, yeah, that was
non-alcoholic beers, Mom.
True. That is actually very true.
Abhi, you shotgunned your first beer last night. How was that? Your first non-alcoholic beer? It was actually a non-alcoholic beer. We thought it would be hilarious to have him shotgun his first beer in America, and then we revealed it to him later.
So I've seen like plenty videos shotgunning beer, but then it was my first time, and I actually didn't know how to do it properly. So you told me to open the can from the top and then drink it. It was difficult to have it at once, so I took like 2 breaks, but then it was pretty fun. And then finding your knife in the grass.
Another thing that I guess this earlier today, we all made our last little adventure into the water, kind of a symbolic end to the trip. But before that, we also, the previous night is I'd convinced Dave I was really trying hard with everyone. And don't think I'm this weird, but I wanted to go skinny dipping. I thought it'd be funny. And I guess just before this trip, a couple days before, and this is a big reason that I'm constantly seeking things like this that put me out of my comfort zone is I'm a big fan of the Yes Theory guys, if you're familiar. And I was showing Abhi one of their videos where they convince a group of strangers to go skinny dipping with them when it's like really cold water, and like 20 people go. And it was just like, honestly, that looked like a great time, even though it was such a weird thing to think about, right? The fact that they convinced them, everyone went. And so last night I was really trying. And it didn't really even work. So Abhi was a definite no. Andrew, not having it. I somehow managed to peer pressure Dave into coming. Dave didn't skinny dip really. He was in an underwear, so we'll give it to him. I did skinny dip. Mm-hmm. It was fun.
I was totally content keeping my underwear on because I didn't think all four of us were going to go down to the dock when I agreed to go skinny dipping.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be dark. We'd face the other direction. Be like, all right, let's go.
And then they came down and they're flashing their flashlights. I'm like, yep, I don't feel comfortable right now.
Yeah, no, that was an interesting moment. But it's just a testament to how close and weird we've gotten.
Yeah, because I would definitely not done that my first night with you guys.
I wouldn't have even proposed it the first night. It was fun. And I don't know, how do you think that, so it wasn't nearly as dark as when I went, but how do you think it was swimming in the dark? You kind of just hopped in and hopped out, but.
I know, yeah, that's true for a lot of the times I was in the cold water, but it was kind of cool because Andrew was saying you were saying that you're going to thank me after this. And I knew that was true, but it's just getting over that barrier, like this is really cold water. But today when I jumped in, I was thinking, had a more like positive mindset about the water. I was like, okay, this will be better. Like I've done this a couple of times. Like it's really not going to be that bad. But, and it was like much easier for me to jump in the water today, and I stayed in longer and I enjoyed it. And it's just funny how it's like such a mental game. Cause like last night I was like already cold. I was like, this is going to be tough. But then your persistence got me to go in the water. But I'm really glad I did it. Like, I mean, it sucks for a couple seconds, but then you hop out and everything feels warmer. And it was pretty cool.
And you're telling me you still don't regret going into Guamanon?
I'll leave that up to the viewers.
Sounds good. So just to close this one out, earlier today, obviously we're still up at the cabin recording this podcast, but after this we're going to pack up, go home. But earlier today we kind of had our last hurrah. It was kind of funny. Abhi was sleeping this morning, and I'll let him talk about this, but we were all kind of ready to jump in. We had done a little bit of a workout. Dave and Andrew were definitely more experienced in that regard, but they were teaching me a bit, so that was fun. And we'd out on the docks ready to jump in, and Abhi opens the door and he's like, "Are you guys gonna jump in?" We're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hold on 1 second." We're like, "All right, perfect." But Abhi, why don't you tell us what that situation was like?
So I mean, it was the perfect time. I woke up, I'll wash my face, and then I was like, I'm too hungry, I'll go down to eat something. I see nobody in the house. I see outside you guys are in shorts, ready to jump. I was like, okay guys, wait. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I just went upstairs, got into my shorts, and I was like, but still I'm hungry. I just grabbed a cereal bar in my pocket. I'll have it in the lake. So I was like, let's jump. And then I had a cereal bar in the lake, and then it was fun. The final dip.
That was wild. When I looked over and you were eating while we were in this freezing cold water, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, that was pretty crazy. What was it like eating in the cold water?
My lower body did not feel, and it was pretty good. I mean, my hands were wet. Even the cereal bar became wet, but then I was like, hunger and food.
Were you more hungry or more cold?
Cold. The water was freezing, so.
But yeah, no, we all got out of that water, and we had pretty much, we chilled for a bit. I read a bit of my book. We spent some time cleaning, doing some eating, much needed eating. We were all so hungry this morning. Interesting. I think that probably
Still am.
Still am.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to.
Me too. Always.
Always hungry. We chilled for a bit, did some cleaning, but pretty much I think that jumping in the water for me kind of symbolized it. And obviously we're going to still have our drive back. It's not like we're all just going to like sit there quietly.
I'm really thinking about it. Oh, I'm muted. I'll say that again. I'm really thinking about not saying anything the entire car ride.
Why?
I'm kidding.
So David can sit there and think about how much he wishes he went in the falls.
Well, yeah. I'm regretting not going in so I wouldn't get ragged on by you guys this entire time.
You're ragging on yourself. You know it.
No, I felt content with my decision up until this conversation.
Okay, but overall, guys, good trip.
Great trip.
No.
Abhi,
I'm kidding. I'm going to let you talk.
how was your last hurrah before you go back to India?
So this was like not planned at all, right? And probably we'll reach at your place tonight, and tomorrow in the morning I have to leave for the airport. So it was like quite impromptu trip, and I'm glad I did it. I mean, thanks to you and you guys to making it memorable. My last few days in the States. So
Thank you for coming. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you came, Abhi, and I'm glad we got to hang out some more because you've been here in the States for over a month, but I've been at school, so we haven't been able to hang out. So
Yeah, obviously I was being sarcastic. I had a great time. I hope we got to show you a good time for your last few days in the States, and yeah, had an absolute blast.
Hopefully we'll be able to come to India.
Yeah,
we can
next
do the
road
same
trip
thing.
in India.
I don't know if we can drive there, but
oh, you can make it happen.
Stick shift only.
Oh, Dave might have to work on his skills a little bit.
yeah, it'll be a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next time we try to do something like this, but I had a great time, and honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better trip. So thank you guys for coming with me. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave's parents, for letting us use his lovely cabin.
Paul and Laura, thank you.
Love you guys.
Me too.
And as a little bit of a last note, this has been a long one, so that camera's off. So to the listeners, seriously, I don't expect a whole bunch of people to listen. This is more for us than anything else. It's more for us. But thank you for joining along. I hope in some way or fashion I'm able to inspire at least one of you guys to take a crazy little adventure of your own, maybe a weekend adventure. And yeah, appreciate you listening. Feel free to message me. Most of you guys are probably my friends, so shoot me a message if you want to be on the podcast or if you have any criticism or ideas for the next one. But until then, see ya.